If you're looking to get into game mastering for the Pathfinder 2nd Edition system, then this might be the video for you. My name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. So today, we're going to be reviewing this puppy right here, the Pathfinder Game Mastery Guide. Third in the series, where we already did the core rule book and the Advanced Player's Guide. This is the guide if you want to get more involved in game mastering and things like that. One of the things I really liked about this particular book is it does have an introduction section, just a few pages long, but it had a really, really good sentence kind of on the second page of that I thought was a really refreshing thing to read in a rules-based system. And it basically stated this exactly. It said, the first rule of Pathfinder is that the game is yours. And what I liked about that and what it, in the following few paragraphs that it kind of went into, is it basically stated that there's a whole system for this game and for your adventures and what you want to play. And there are adventure paths and things you can do, but the game is yours. So if the rules are getting in the way of the adventure you want to play, or there are things that are preventing the enjoyment of yourself or the players, well, then recolor the rules, change the rules, rewrite them, adjust them, or, if the rule is just too onerous for you to get past, then remove the rule. The game is yours. So, make sure to keep that in mind as you're going through this Game Master Guide. One of the things I will say is that this book here, I like it. I like it a lot. It has really explained a lot to me and really furthered my understanding of the game, even though I'm not game mastering yet, although I do want to. But you don't need it. Pretty much, if you look back behind me, trying to do this over the shoulder thing's always rough. Right there is the core rule book. Everything you need to be a game master, to run an adventure path, to run the beginner's box, to run a pre-written module of any sort, it's in there. You don't need this. What this is basically for is it gives you some framework if you're interested in creating your own adventures, creating your own creatures, creating your own items, creating your own settlements or planes of existence. This book exists to give you examples, frameworks, and systems in order to get these things off the ground so you can create the world that you want to create. First thing we're going to get to is the section right after the introduction, the advanced gameplay section. The advanced gameplay section is there to give you advice on things that you might encounter as you're going through a game, sitting at a table. So it's kind of like a little Dear Abby for you, the game master, for problems you might be having at your table. It deals with things like pacing and the fact that you might have to improv certain scenes because you might be guiding your adventures on a path that goes along and it seems super obvious to you, but there's that one NPC who just seems too intriguing to them and they might take the whole story a different direction than you wanted to go. This kind of gives you advice on how to deal with something like that. It deals with how to use hero points in the game and what you can do, some metagaming, because visually I could look at the floor and say, okay, I want a circle about this big. But if you have an area of effect spell that is 30 feet, I can't create a 30-foot circle on the ground 60 feet away from me and know exactly. So there is some metagaming that's going to be part of the game, but it kind of gives you advice on how to handle too much metagaming from your players. It also tells you how to run encounters, how to run your exploration phases, and how to run your downtime phases, and suggestions on how to make those go a little bit more smoothly. If you want to role play them or if you just want them to be transactions, it kind of gives you advice on how to balance that. It tells you how to resolve problems like total party kills. They occur, and especially recently, there's been some things I've been seeing online about whether GMs should kill players. That's up to individuals. That's up to your table. That's up to agreement everybody has. My thought on it is if there's no risk, then the game isn't as fun. I don't expect my players to die. By my players, I'm not talking me being a GM, I'm talking about me playing the game. I don't expect the player that I'm playing to die, but if he does, we're adventurers. That's something that happens. It tells you how to deal with those kind of things. It tells you how to deal with problematic players and gives you advice on what to do in order to reintegrate them into the group, or if necessary, disinvite them from the group. It deals with certain builds or players that have these overpowered characters that seem to be taking over the game, and how you can go ahead and deal with that within the confines of the system without, just nerfing the character totally. It deals with things like campaign structures and adventure design and encounter design in case you want to start developing your own things within the game. From then, we're going to go into the tools section. This is the part where, when I was thinking of doing this review could be an hour long. There's a lot in the tools section, and there's a lot in the subsystem section, which is the next thing we're going to be covering. But I'm going to keep this shorter and give you an idea of what it gives you and let you decide to go from there. Because remember, even if you don't have this book yet, Archives of Nethys exist that holds this information for you. There are various places you can go online in order to learn and read these things. So I'm just going to give you an overview and let you do the individual research yourself. The tools section, it helps you build your own elements in the game, but teaches you how to balance it. If you are creating a brand new adventure in your own country or your own settlement, and you introduce a character and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to include a Gorgon here. And you have a bunch of first level adventurers, and in 2 rounds, the whole party's done. Well, you didn't balance it very well. There's a section here that gives you tables for what would be a good level encounter, what would be extreme. It helps you balance those things out, not just in creature design, but also in environments and things like that. It gives you that structure in order to get those things together. It teaches you how to do things like creatures, hazards and traps is another section, settlements, nations, worlds, and planes. It gives you ideas on how to put those things together so that they make sense within this particular system of rules. Going back to what I said at the beginning, the game is yours. So if a rule doesn't make sense or is preventing you from telling your adventure, feel free to color it how you want. But within the confines, it tells you how they came up with their system. Going on to that, we're going to leave the tools section and we're going to go to the subsystem section. When we say subsystem, we're talking about something that is used to expand upon or to create whole new elements and aspects of the game. So an example of a subsystem would be if you had a very social adventure path that you were creating, a very social campaign that you wanted to do that was about political intrigue. Well, then influence, reputation, the underworld would be so much more prominent in your campaign than it would be in others. So it actually has examples of an influence subsystem or a reputational subsystem. It has examples on things like research. If your adventurers had gone off on a different path in a regular pre-written story and they want to research how to do something, it gives you ideas and a system in order to deal with what your limitations would be, as well as to what your thresholds are. What's a success? What's a failure? How many levels of success there are, and what that ladder of success looks like. It gives you guidelines in order to do that kind of thing. And the big thing it does is it gives you the balance in order to do this. The most important subsection of this section of subsystems, that's a lot of subs in one sentence there, is their idea, and it's the first section in this. It is victory points. You might have not ever heard that before. I never heard it before I cracked this book open. But what victory points are is it is the framework that the Pathfinder rule writers use in order to create all their systems. So if you're you want your system to fit in with the rules and to make sense with the rest of the rules that are in the game, then that would be a good way to do it. It even states when you're reading this that you don't have to call them victory points. That's just what they're called. You could name them anything you want, but that is that framework of thresholds in order to determine success or failure within your system. And if you follow those guidelines, then any wild thing that you come up with your imagination can fit into the system and make sense to the players and not seem like a totally alien concept. It's a really, really good read that kind of explains the thoughts behind how the rules Pathfinder came into be. And if you are creative enough, you might not need some of these things. An uncreative person like me loves the tools that are available in this guide, so definitely use what you can get out of it. The next section I want to go into is the variant rules section. It does include the ever popular free archetype section that is in there. I'm trying to remember the page number. I think 146, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'll pop it up in the text here. Dual wielding, ability score variants, alignment variants. They had a really interesting skill purchase system where you kind of bank your skill points in order to buy things, buy skills. There's also a really good section on level 0. Let's say you had an adventure you wanted to go on, but you needed the group to be friends or to know each other at the very least, or to at least have interacted before. Well, you can create level zero characters of your level 1 characters and let them go on a adventure, a get to know each other type of adventure, or a background building adventure. It's a really, really interesting section. The last main section in this Game Mastery guide is the NPC Gallery. I'll go ahead and bring that page up, or bring just a page in that thing. So it basically gives you a list of different types of NPCs that you might need. If you need a beast tamer, it tells you basically what their stat block would look like. If you need a dancer, it'll tell you what their stat block would look like. That's for performers. If you need even things as mundane as, and it's not mundane, but anything that is just as common as a laborer. If you need a laborer, a servant, deckhands, it gives you the stat blocks in order to be able to put those characters into the game while giving them enough detail for you to be able to fully interact with them. Let's say you were playing an NPC and you insulted one of your player characters knowingly or unknowingly, and he wanted to fight the deckhand. You have stats for that, as well as what they probably do. So that's a really good section that covers a bunch of different NPC types. And if you can't find exactly what you want, you might be able to find something close enough that you might just be able to recolor or reflavor them in order to do what you need to do. Just like the other books, the Game Master Guide does have a glossary/index where you can go to the back of the book if you need a definition on a term, and you can read that definition right there on that page in the back of the book. And if it's not enough for you, it tells you the page number to go to in order to get a fuller explanation. I really like that about this book, about all the Paizo books so far, is that it doesn't just take you to a page where you have to reread a whole 3, 4, 5, 6 sections in order to understand just a simple concept because you just wanted a quick refresher, but it gives you that information if you need to. That is pretty much everything that's included in the book. Right now, I'd like to go in just to the book itself, just like I did with the other reviews, where we're going to talk about the physical thing itself. Artwork on this is amazing. I like it. It's my favorite artwork for a system that I've personally seen. Bound very well. Pages are heavyweight, durable, a little glossy. So if you're reading in a lot of direct light, you might have seen throughout the video, or I can go ahead and do it to the lights here. You can see where there's reflections on there. However, what I do like about this better than for some of the other systems, especially when I went into the core rulebook and I brought up the other player's handbook, very high contrast, very well delineated sections at the beginning or at the corner of every single page. They have this section that tells you where you are in the book, as well as here where the tabs are, how big each section is, and where they are in the book. So you'll never really lose your place in the book. Tables, charts, art are all fantastic. Even your tables and sidebars are very well delineated with nice contrast on the pages, so it's easy to read. If you're visually impaired, it's a little bit easier to read than the other book. Better to keep track of everything in here. Not quite as this is not another chunky boy like the core rulebook was. Core rulebook was like a 3-in-1 type book. This is much more manageable. Once again, a much tighter focus on what it's trying to give you. If you are a player, you don't necessarily need this book. And if you're a GM who is going to be doing pre-written adventures or things of that nature, you don't necessarily need this book. If you would like to expand your knowledge about being a game master, fantastic. I'm not going to say that makes you a better game master. Everything you need to be a game master is really in the core rulebook. But this allows you to flavor everything as you want it and have the whole thing make sense and be cohesive with the rest of the rules. I firmly suggest you get this. It is available at Paizo.com. Fully supporting the publisher by purchasing it from them. It's available hardbound. There's a special edition. There's a pocket edition. The pocket edition is not pocketable. It is a full book. There's nothing taken out when they say pocket edition. It's literally just a little bit smaller. It's not quite pocket. It's more like a soft cover version of a book. I need to order one so I can do a review on those as well. And it's also available as a PDF if you want to download it. But once again, this information is available in the archives of Nethys, so it is free. If you can't pick up the book or can't afford to pick up the book, the information is there for you. But I totally supporting Paizo and continuing this system and putting it out. So if we've made it this far, I appreciate you listening to the video. We'll go ahead and close out on this. And I thank you for staying so far. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you liked the video. That'd be great. But I'm going to wish you a good day and happy adventuring. Thanks.